All right, in this video, we're going to look at lifestyle leverage versus a new concept, financial leverage. We have three households, similar incomes, very different outcomes. The first household collapses when income falls. The second survives the income shock, but gets crushed by debt payments. The third experiences both problems at the same time. So which household is actually the most financially fragile? Today we're going to build what is essentially a financial X-ray. Because financial stress does not come from just one place. Some households are fragile because of lifestyle rigidity. Others are fragile because of financing rigidity. And some households combine both. In the last videos, we introduced contribution statements, this concept of degree of lifestyle leverage, and the impact of fixed lifestyle costs. Today, in this video, we separate lifestyle leverage from financial leverage. And once you see the difference, you'll never look at household finances the same way again. In corporate finance, which deals with businesses and financial decisions, companies face two different types of leverage. Operating leverage is the first. This comes from fixed operating costs. This is analogous to the fixed lifestyle costs that a household would take on. And they also are exposed to financial leverage. This comes from debt financing and interest obligations. Households behave the exact same way. Some households become fragile because their lifestyle structure is too rigid. Others become fragile because debt obligations absorb too much flexibility. And some households combine both problems simultaneously. That is where financial fragility becomes extreme. So our first household has high fixed lifestyle costs, but relatively low financing pressure. This household earns a strong income, owns expensive assets, but has relatively manageable debt obligations. The problem is not financing, the problem is the lifestyle structure itself. So let's look at the contribution and financing structure of this household. On the left-hand side, you'll see lifestyle structure, and on the right-hand side, you'll see the financing structure. We've already dealt with in the past video what the lifestyle structure is, or the operating structure. It includes things like your income and your variable and fixed costs, excluding any types of financing costs or income. On the right-hand side, we have financing structure. In this particular scenario, the interest expense for all debt is $250, and the minimum debt payments is $300. This creates total financing pressure of $550. And we can see here that the debt snapshot shows us things like mortgages, auto loans, credit cards, personal lines of credit. So the structural insight here is that the high fixed lifestyle costs, especially the total fixed costs, is going to give us a high degree of lifestyle leverage. The financing costs, though, are less. There's low financing pressure, or the debt obligations are manageable relative to the income in this particular scenario. At the bottom, we can see that the contribution margin is 64.3%. That's $9,000 out of $14,000, which is the total income. The fixed cost percent of income is 57.1. The net income before financing percent is 7.1, and the financing pressure as a percent of income is 3.9%. So that financial flexibility, or the buffer, is $450, or that which is remaining after the variable costs, fixed costs, and total financing costs. Now let's look at a very different structure. This household lives more modestly, has lower fixed operating costs or living costs, but carries heavy debt obligations. This is financing fragility. Now, if we look at this particular sheet, we have the same structure as the last, with our lifestyle structure on the left and our financing structure on the right. We can see that the income is $14,000, the variable costs are $3,000, and the total fixed costs are $4,500, resulting in a lower fixed lifestyle cost. The net income before financing is $6,500. Then we move over to the right side of the table and we see financing structure. The financing costs monthly are credit card interest, line of credit, vehicle financing, minimum debt payments. And we see that the total financing pressure here is $4,700. We can see a debt snapshot of where these financing costs come from. Here's the structural insight. Strong contribution margin and lower fixed costs. Our contribution margin at the bottom of this slide is 78.6%. The fixed cost percent of income is 32.1%. And the net income before financing is 46.4%. But vulnerability to interest rate increases and debt shocks. The risk type here is financial leverage. It's high. The financing pressure as a percent of income is 33.6%, and that financial flexibility, or the buffer, is $1,800 after financing. So this scenario shows that there's high financing pressure. Now, this household has much better lifestyle flexibility. The contribution structure is healthy, but debt absorbs enormous amounts of financial flexibility. This household does not collapse because of lifestyle rigidity. It collapses because financing pressure overwhelms the system. Now we combine both problems. This third household has a rigid lifestyle structure and heavy financing obligations. This is combined fragility. And this is where financial pressure becomes extremely dangerous. So you can see here our third household. We have the lifestyle structure on the left with the financing structure again on the right. The income for this household is $14,000. They have total variable costs of $5,000 and total fixed costs of $8,000. The contribution margin, which is the amount remaining after just the variable costs divided by the income, is 64.3%, and the fixed cost as a percent of income is the $8,000 out of the $14,000, or 57.1%, which is very high lifestyle leverage. The net income before financing is 7.1%. When we move over to the right side, we see an enormous amount of financing costs that are monthly. The $900 from the credit card, the $700 from the line of credit, $900 from vehicle financing, and $900 from minimum debt payments. This means the total financing pressure is $3,400, and that as a percent of income is 24.3%. We see the debt snapshot that creates these obligations, these financing costs. And we can see that this is an example of high financing pressure. The debt obligations consume a large portion of the remaining financial flexibility. Now, this is the most dangerous structure because both systems are rigid simultaneously. The lifestyle absorbs flexibility, then financing absorbs what little remains. This household has almost no shock absorption capacity. And now the framework becomes extremely powerful because we can finally separate lifestyle problems from financing problems. This is why two households with similar incomes can experience completely different outcomes. One may struggle because their lifestyle is too rigid, another because debt is consuming flexibility, and another still because both systems are leveraged simultaneously. This is the financial X-ray. So I've said it before and I'll say it again. Financial strength is not determined by income alone. It is determined by flexibility, structure, and survivability. Some households appear wealthy but are extremely fragile. Others appear modest but are structurally resilient. And understanding the difference changes how you think about spending, debt, housing, and financial decision making itself. Now it's your turn to extend the framework. Up to this point, you've built what is essentially a lifestyle contribution statement. You classified fixed lifestyle costs, variable lifestyle costs, and mixed costs. You calculated contribution margin and net income before financing. And importantly, the bottom line of your personal income statement and personal contribution income statement should still reconcile to the same net income figure. We are simply restructuring the income statement to better understand behavior and leverage. Now we add the second layer, financing structure. Directly underneath your contribution statement, add the financing section, which contains the following: mortgage interest, HELOC interest, line of credit interest, credit card interest, vehicle loan interest, personal loan interest, installment loan interest, and student loan interest, and any interest from any product that you have, period. Notice carefully, we are including interest expense only, which we can get from our expense items on our income statement, not total debt payments. This is because principal repayments are not expenses. They do not belong on the income statement, and including them would distort our net income or bottom figure. Principal repayment is balance sheet activity. Interest expense is income statement activity, and that distinction matters enormously. Now classify these financing costs by behavior. Some financing costs are relatively fixed. For example, fixed rate mortgages, fixed rate installment loans, or fixed vehicle financing arrangements. These create financing rigidity. Other financing costs are variable or flexible. For example, floating rate debt, HELOC interest, so home equity line of credit interest, revolving credit balances, variable rate lines of credit, and credit card interest that changes with balances. These financing costs move dynamically with balances, interest rates, or both, and this creates financing sensitivity. And in our next video, we're going to introduce an analogous concept to the degree of lifestyle leverage to be able to measure this sensitivity, and that's called the degree of financial leverage. But instead of analyzing income shocks, we'll analyze interest rate shocks. We'll ask, what happens if interest rates rise by 1%? How much does interest expense increase, financial flexibility shrink, and net income deteriorate? And then, for the first time, we'll combine the degree of lifestyle leverage and the degree of financial leverage into one integrated household risk framework. Because once you understand lifestyle rigidity and financing rigidity, you begin seeing how leverage compounds across the entire household system.